What's going on, wrestling fans? Welcome into another edition of Near Falls with D Hall, a wrestling podcast. Today, it is my favorite episode of the year, my favorite project, the WPIAL Preseason Preview. So pumped up to release this to you guys. Just right off the bat, we're doing it a little bit different than we did last year. Last year, I had them all together on one. It was like 3 hours long. It was a lot. This year, I'm changing it up. Each single team is going to have their own little video, their own little episode of the pod. So you won't have to sift through all the other stuff. Super excited for that. We talked to all these different coaches, man. I had 30 guys come on from across AA and AAA, which shattered my goals for this year, which is awesome. So yeah, man, I'm just super excited to release this to you guys. It was a lot of fun. These coaches were open and honest. They had great insight, and for me, man, just to sit down and listen to these guys talk about what they're wrestling, there's not much better in my world. So without further ado, here is the WPIAL Preseason Preview. Thank you, guys. Love Jens. As always, brought to you by Switch Custom Apparel.
Welcome to the Near Falls WPIAL Show, where Dial and Kaz are gonna tell you all the things you wanna know. Whether it's Trinity or Spencer Lee or Mr. Kurt Angle, just ask Vinny D, WPIAL, yeah, Ken and Mac for sure. They got the interviews to suit your soul, because it's Near Falls in the WPIAL.
Okay, joining me now on the call, we have head coach of Hampton High School, Nick Endres. Did I say that right?
Close. Endries.
See, I'm mad at myself because I didn't even get get the pronunciation before we started. So that's on me. Nick Endres, thank you for coming on the show and talking about the squad, taking some time out. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Glad to chat.
Yeah, man. So let's get right into it. First things first, I've been leading off the interviews like this, man. Alumni group, who's doing big things, post high school?
Yeah, so we have two current alumni that are still wrestling in college. Ty Kozak, he graduated a few years back. He's down at George Mason University with Frank Beasley and company down there. He's been off and on as a starter, kind of working his way up. I think he's all the way up towards 197 now. And, he graduated, I think, around 170 with us. And he started his high school career down towards, maybe the weight class at that time was 106, 112, or maybe I'm thinking back to my high school weight classes. I know he was down somewhere in that range, but he's a big guy now, big and strong, doing good things for them. And Zach Wright, we miss those guys. I think of Zach Wright. Those two graduated the same year, and Zach's over at San Fran State out with Coach Jason Welch. And he had a pretty good, solid season his first year as a starter, down at 125 last year. I've been trying to keep a lookout for him and results and everything coming up. I anticipate Zach having a solid year on the mat, just knowing his work ethic as an athlete. And those are our only two currently still competing on the mat. We do have a good bit of alumni playing collegiate football. We have two at Edinburgh University, Gage Valeska and Jaden Resch. Those two are playing for the Borough. And then our big heavyweight from a few years back, Dawson Dietz, we call him Dirt. He's down at W&J doing really well, starting for the team. I know he had a really good season last year and this past season as well. So we keep in touch with those guys. Always good hearing from them. And those are, as far as I know, are athletes that are still competing collegiately.
Very cool, man. Very cool indeed. Okay, next thing I have on the docket here, off-season program. How's it gone for you guys so far?
It went great. I think a lot of coaches say that, and I can share something that's pretty unique to what we've been doing now for going on 2 summers. I think of the summer specifically. This is a time where we try to, get our wrestlers that are part of the program already on the mat while still trying to expand our borders of getting more kids involved in the sport. We still, as I'm sure every program is really battling, like continuing to try to get more kids in the room and on the mat because we know how great the sport of wrestling is. And so we've been offering throughout the summer months of June and July. I wouldn't call it a club. I'd call it a wrestling program that we do twice a week. And we actually do it off campus. We take mats out to one of our youth wrestling coaches' places. He has a big kind of a warehouse of old refurbished Jeeps. I'm about like 40 Jeeps that he has in there. And it's a really cool facility. Like if you were to hop on our Instagram, you would see, towards the summer months, posts of us working out there. And it's a really unique facility. It moves the Jeeps out, of course, but we put the mats down there. We make it a safe space for the kids. We get current wrestlers, youth, all the way up through high school, new kids, some kids in Hampton, or a lot of kids in Hampton, then some kids from outside the area. And then we also, whenever our alumni are in town, we, of course, invite them to come in and work with the guys. Zach and Ty, who I've already mentioned, have both been out there. And even some like local, like former wrestlers in the area, we reach out to, like the Alexander brothers, Jeff and Justin. They've come on out and taught and showed a little bit of technique to our guys a few summers back. So we've been enjoying that space. It's a unique and pretty cool space to be out at during the off season. So I like it.
Yeah, man, that's real cool. Hanging around with a bunch of Jeeps and wrestling. That's not a bad spot
pretty
there.
cool.
I love that. Okay. So as we get into the season, man, you talk about, the off-season program there. Who are some of the leaders that have identified themselves?
We had last year, we didn't have any seniors, and this year we have a big clump of them, about 8 or 9 of them. And I've been challenging them to be more vocal. We have, I would say, a lot of quiet leaders, guys that lead by action. And I can think of some of my seniors that do that, of Alan Danner, who really had more of a breakout season for him last year, placing top 3 in the section, qualifying for WPIALs, which was huge for him because he's a kid that really works his butt off. He's zero complaints, zero drama, the kind of kid that you just love having in the room. Zach Campbell is another one I think of that is very similar in his demeanor and his work ethic. Hasn't had the success on the mat yet, but he's one I hope to anticipate to have good things come his way. Another senior wrestler. We don't have a girls team, so we still have girls on our varsity boys lineup, and we have one that does pretty well at 107 pounds, Isabella McNutt, and she's entering her 3rd year wrestling, and she was our first in program's history being a state medalist on the girls side last year. And she really does, for being pretty new athlete to the sport still, just entering her 3rd year, she just does so many things right that I can't even keep track of them all. She just makes people better being around her with her work ethic and what she does even outside the room, in the classroom, and how she carries herself. Those are 3 of our seniors I think of, in addition to, like Caleb Bryan. He's had a lot of success for us. He's currently dealing with an injury, so we're hoping to get him healthy and on the map. But I really look at that senior class. I know I mentioned 3 or 4 of our wrestlers there, and those are 4 I'm really challenging, in addition to some other seniors, to really step it up this year.
So on the other side of that coin, who are some freshmen or newcomers in the lineup that we need to keep our eye on?
We only have 2 freshmen. Currently, I don't know if they'll crack the lineup. We do have another lightweight down near Isabella's weight. I foresee him getting in and out of the starting spot around 107, 114. His name's Aiden Shim. And, to speak to him and our other freshmen, despite them not having the best, accolades coming into the varsity room, they've really responded well to the message and the culture we're trying to continue to build, within the varsity room. Just within the first 2 weeks, just the way that they've competed. And I just told them, we had wrestle offs. I said, I wanted to see you be chippy. I want to see some grit out there. Mm-hmm. And those were 2 youngest in the room were the ones, putting that to the walk, walking the talk of what the challenge was. And I really like seeing that. And so I think if those things are happening, then better things are to come. Starting spots, wins, victories. You take care of the character, the wrestling kind of follows. Is kind of our program, philosophy.
Love that. Yeah, man. That's a good one for sure. Nothing wrong with a little chippiness, man, in our sport. That's good stuff.
Kind of need it, being the toughest combat sport in the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Next thing I have on the docket, my friend, coaching staff. Who's helping you out this year?
Man, I'm really blessed at Hampton. I have 2 former head coaches as 3 of my coaches on staff. Chris Hart. He was the head coach for 4 years prior to me stepping into the position. He's just, kind of the Hart name is a legendary name in the wrestling community at Hampton. His nephew, Justin, was our last state finalist that didn't graduate that too long ago. And his other nephew, Justin's brother, Jake, was our last state champion.
Both of them.
They're great. We miss them, miss seeing them around. And, Chris is our uncle, and Chris had a lot of success of his own, not just wrestling, but athletically, all around, football, golf, everything. And I have him on staff. Anything I don't know, he does. And anything Chris and I don't know, Joe Bursick does. Joe is on staff with us. He was the head coach for 22 years, really made the program what it is today. And he's still around in a big way. If you've been around Joe, he's, salt of the earth kind of guy. You walk in the room and he's just, he makes people better. And I love having Joe as part of our staff. And then one new person in the room with us coaching. And I was just talking to one of our other coaches, like, man, I really love having him in the room. It's Kenny Downing.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, Kenny's
I know
in the
Kenny.
room.
Let's go.
Yeah, so I'm the only coach that is not from Hampton. Those three are from Hampton.
Yeah, man.
So they let me hear it time to time, but I am really blessed with those three, and so are our athletes.
Man, Kenny Dowding. Yeah, I had a couple golf rounds with Kenny. He's friends with guys I used to work with. Man, very cool stuff. Okay, so let's get right into my next part of my question. We were chatting back and forth on our text, man, and this is some cool stuff for me. You hit me right in my feels last night. I was sitting in class, but you mentioned you're a freedom boy, and I was like, yeah, my cousin's Johnny Miron. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the name, kind of around that age.
Mm-hmm.
And you hit me back with, I won the Bobby Miron Football Award when you were in midgets, man. That's my pap. That's my guy. Talk about winning that award. That's really, really cool stuff for me.
Yeah, I mean, I remember him being around from when I was a young kid all the way down. We talking like Pee Wee football terms of twerps to termites to mighty mites to midgets. I remember him being around at practices, at games, and he's the kind of guy that makes not just a football program but a community feel like home, feel like a family. And I spent many years growing up playing football, wrestling, and baseball, and being part of the football program. This award emulated what he was to the community. Given to guys that were coachable, that were leaders on the field, that kind of emulate what he was to the community, what those athletes did on the field. And I actually was a freshman at the time that I received it because I was always smaller when I got older. And so I was still young enough age-wise to play in our midget program. And I remember, they tell you before you actually receive the award that you are a recipient because you're expected to make a speech. You're at this age, but that should tell you that it's a pretty big award that's really highly touted in the community. And I was actually over, my coach at the time was John Rosa, and it was during
yes, of course,
it was during wrestling season, and I believe it was sometime after a tournament, and I actually wasn't even living with my family that year. I was living with a family friend the entire year whose uncle was John Rosa. They were taking care of me. My family was in a tough spot, and I remember working with him, writing my speech out, thinking through it, trying to put the words that I wanted to really share of how I felt about the program and what your grandfather represented to us as a community, put them down on paper well and speak that at the banquet the following day. So that's like the memory I think back to when I think of that award.
Man, that's that's good stuff. Coach, thank you so much for that, man. That hit me right in the feels. Very, very good stuff. For me to get through that without crying is very impressive because most know that I'm a pretty softy. So let's get right back into the squad before I start crying. Schedule. What's it look like for you guys this year? How are you getting prepared? Obviously, one of my favorites. I wrestled it in high school, the Hampton Dog Duels. Are you guys back with that again this year?
We are. It's tradition. It's actually the Joe Bursick Senior Dog Duels in honor of Coach Bursick's father. And it's a pretty tough duel tournament. I remember when I first started coaching, I was part of Seneca Valley, and we were, attending the tournament. And this was back probably around 2010, 11, 12, when they had Jay Carr, Kevin Sine, and all these guys that they were really good. And Hampton was winning these duels, and it was a really challenging tournament, and it stayed that. We have some of the top, a coach told me today, I think we have 4 of the top 10 AAA teams, what the Trib put out as like the top 10 teams. We have teams such as, let me make sure I got my list. We have Altoona coming in from out of town this year. We have Fox Chapel. We have Franklin Regional, Kiski, Norwin, Plum, Seneca Valley, TJ, Mount Pleasant, Ligonier Valley, Mars, and us. So there's going to be some really good wrestling come Saturday, or not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, the 9th. Man. So that's a weekend we really take pride in. We want to put on a good event. We want there to be really tough, challenging wrestling. I think coaches expect that, and that's something that they put on their schedule to test their guys early in the season. So we want to make sure we're doing our part in planning that well, inviting the teams and that want that kind of competition. And then, it's not on our schedule that we compete in, but we actually follow that up the very next day honoring Joe's daughter, our Emma Bursick Memorial Youth Wrestling Tournament. It's that same weekend on Sunday. And so that entire weekend is a big weekend for us as a program.
Very cool, man. Very cool indeed. When did that kind of start? Because I feel like as long as I can remember, that's been, a pretty good dual tournament. You guys still do the polls?
We do. This year with the 12 teams, I believe I kind of stay away from it. I like just focusing on our guys. I'm lucky that I have coaches that kind of oversee, or at least former coaches, like Dean Longwell. He was a part of our coaching staff years ago. He's overseeing it this year. And Dan Thompson is a guy that has really took charge of that in years past. And it was shared with me that they're going to do 4 polls of 3 teams to start. And then depending on how you do in your poll, you'll get put into, the top 4 teams will then wrestle and finish the day against one another.
Nice.
The second best in each will finish the day, and so forth. That way, you get some challenging matches at the beginning, and then you kind of get tiered, according to your competition level for the rest of the day. So it's pretty nice.
Very cool, man. I love that. So besides the Hampton Dog Duels, how are you getting prepared? How are you getting these guys prepared for the end of the year?
We're going to start this weekend going down to the Chartiers Houston tournament. I personally haven't been down there since I was a young kid, my freshman year. But we're going to go down there for that individual tournament this year to start our season. And then apart from dual meets, with our section, we have our dog duels. And then we're going to do the Steve DiAugustino West Mifflin Holiday Tournament over winter break. And then we'll come back from winter break. As far as tournament-wise, we'll go to Allegheny counties mid-January, and we'll finish up our tournament regular season schedule up at the Fred Bell in Grove City. It's nice to get up there to see some.
Every single school I've talked to tonight is going to the Fred Bell. I'm so excited about this. I'm definitely going.
I love the competition up there. I'm from Freedom, but I actually graduated from Titusville, a Northwest school out of the D10. So I was exposed to that tournament as an athlete in high school, and I love it. I love the competition there. For us in Hampton, we get to see kids that we won't see until the Southwest Regional Tournament. So it's helpful for us to be up there, and they just run a really good tournament. I can't speak enough of those guys. I believe Wes Phipps, the head coach of that program, and his whole booster program and coaching staff, they run a really good tournament. Man,
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. I've had you, Pine Richland, who else did I have on this at Montour? So all you guys are going up there, man. That's Trinity. I know goes up there. So yeah, man, that's a nice tournament. Okay, next thing I have on the dock: room games. What do you guys get into? Dodgeball, kickball, handball. What's your game of choice over there at Hampton?
It is dodgeball. Dodgeball is the team favorite. It's not really original. Today we're doing 2-man dodgeball. We do different variations of it, but today we did 2. We don't do it super often. When we see them really working hard in the room and getting dialed in, we'll dial it back for them and reward them. And today was a day. They've been really doing well in the practice room with their intensity and everything. And we had a dodgeball day to start the day, and it was nice. It was a breath of fresh air. We all need that. In a sport as intense as wrestling, we need to take it back and have some fun more.
Now, will you get in there?
I will a little bit, not too often. I kind of take that time, honestly, to kind of take care of some things on the administrative side, get my computer out and let them have some fun. If I can hop in there typically later in the season, I will, less on my plate. But right now, time of year, it's just like kind of checking off final boxes, getting ready for the competition season.
Yep. No doubt. Okay, Coach. Next thing I have on the docket: goals and expectations you have for this squad.
This is a goal that we talked as a team openly at our banquet last year. We haven't had a lot of recent success as a team. We've been able to put individuals on podiums at the WPIAL regional and state level, not immediately last year, but years leading up to that. And we don't just want that individual success. We want to get that team success back in the room. And it's been a challenge. Most of our kids in the room have only been wrestling since middle school. We don't have a lot that have been lifetimers since the youth level. But getting back to the goal, we want to push to win the section, at least our subsection, go undefeated in our subsection, and push into the team playoffs, which we haven't in a while. And that has been the forefront that we remind them each and every day. If they're competing for their teammates, that's bigger than themselves. And I think that's going to help them individually. So we're really stressing that team element.
Good stuff, man. Okay, next thing I have on the dock is social medias. How can we follow your squad this year?
We have a team Facebook. I don't even have a Facebook. We have other coaches and boosters that take care of that. We do have a team Instagram that is a little bit more active, and that's Talbot's Wrestling. Yeah, that's Talbot's Wrestling. And we did have a Twitter, though it hasn't been active in a few years. I would like to get that up and going sooner than later, but probably the best for most folks using social media is our Instagram. We'll post about our youth all the way up through our high school program and highlights and everything like that on there.
Yeah, man, good stuff. I just followed it. It looks like a nice page, man. Good way to follow the squad.
Yeah, we try to highlight all levels on there.
Very cool. Okay, anything or anyone you want to shout out before I leave you go?
I don't want to be cliche, but I think most wrestling coaches, especially if you're married, you have to thank your wife. And I have to for sure thank her. I mean, the amount of time, what wrestling is as an athlete, and anytime you're involved in the sport, from a coach to on the administrative side to on the media side, it's a grind of a season. And, I got 2 young kids here, 2 little girls, and my wife is just a superstar at the house while I'm gone a lot.
Preach, my friend.
So she's been learning the sport through me. God bless her. She never really was around wrestling till me. So for her first exposure to be a wrestling coach can be a little more challenging. She does it really well. So she's the sole spotlight I gotta give the shine to.
I love that, man. Yeah, it's really true, man. That the wives are the ones on the back end that, they're the ones who keep it all together. They're the glue for sure.
They are.
Okay, Coach. Anything else you have before I leave you go?
No, let's keep an eye on the Talbots. We're always kind of under the radar.
Yep.
But I think we really, as an entire coaching staff, we got the resources and knowledge in the room with Joe, Chris, Kenny, and the kids respond well. That towards the end of the season, I've been impressed. Our kids always respond. They step up, towards the end of the season, and I'm always very pleasantly surprised to see them grow throughout the season. So keep an eye on some wrestlers. One I didn't mention was Dustin Kerr. He did really well as a freshman last year. I anticipate him continuing to climb up WPIAL regional and hopefully the state podium. So he's one wrestler I probably should talk a little bit more about before the end of the podcast.
That's cool though. Yeah, man. Hey, any of those guys, I appreciate that. And, I'm sure I'll see you real soon at, a tournament or maybe even at the Hampton Dog Doles.
You should come. You're welcome.
Yeah, man. That's that's the WPIAL Doles weekend, man. I think there's 3 you guys, Moon, and Trinity. So maybe I'll just try to hit the little circle, We'll see what happens.
Well, you're welcome anytime.
My man, appreciate you so much. Thank you for carving out some time and hanging out with me.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you.